It's a long statute, would have been 10 years. We went through this whole question with Bill Cosby. You may recall that most of, or virtually all of the female accusers of Bill Cosby were foreclosed from criminal proceedings because of statutes of limitation. Andrea Constant in Pennsylvania, the case that ultimately ended with Bill Cosby's conviction, she got in just under the wire.
Because it's just so striking to me that these statutes of limitations, generally, you say 10 years is on the long end for some states, and the pain, the suffering that people who allege that they've been sexually assaulted, in some cases worse, raped, is long-lasting. And so I sometimes think about that a lot, why as a country, we have these very short statute of limitations for sexual assault, because it's only after, I guess, a process period, a period where people talk to you and then suggest to you that you should come out and go to the police, that these stories come out. And by then, sometimes it's too late to go after the attacker.
Well, can I give you the other point of view for the sake of argument?
Yes, please do.
What defense lawyers would certainly say is the following. We have to have statutes of limitation in order to find witnesses. We have to have statutes of limitation because people's memory fades and their recollections differ. That you have to have a bit of certainty. So when I say 10 years is a pretty long statute of limitations, it really is.
Right.
At the same time, what we have found, going back to your concern, which I think is a concern of people all across the country, which is why some of these statutes have been wiped out altogether and there would be no statutes for sexual assault cases, is precisely what you say. It's the trauma that sexual assault victims go through and then don't come forward until much later on. With children, we have found that the statute of limitations is what we call told. It stops, so it doesn't begin till they reach the age of majority. But then there is still a statute.
So wait, sorry, I didn't understand. So if you allege that, in the case of the reporting that Nikki Batiste has done here at CBS News on the sexual assaults of priests against minor children, if you're 7, 8, 9 years old and you've been sexually assaulted by priests, when does the statute start?
It may start, depending on the state, at the age of 18 or the age of 21. It just depends on the state. But that was particularly because of the vulnerability of children and the fear of children saying anything to anyone. What happened in this case is it's a delayed reporting. It happened if it happened at all, but they certainly met at the club car with whatever happened in the summer of 2016. According to the police, and at what we had a show cause hearing, there is an audio tape of that hearing, which was simply before a clerk magistrate to be able to go forward with the case for the arraignment. At the show cause hearing, what we learn is that according to the district attorney's case, that this young man, after he was allegedly assaulted, went directly to the home of his sister, or where she was residing on Nantucket. So you have what we call a fresh complaint witness. That's a legal term. And what it means is that you complained promptly to someone about a sexual assault. Fresh complaint witnesses are very critical because they show that there was some close to contemporaneous complaint. And those witnesses have often been missing in these cases that are years and years old. And so how do you test the credibility of a case? When what you have is the word of the accuser against the word of the accused.
There he is.
Should he decide
Let's bring Anne-Marie in too. But Anne-Marie, here's Kevin Spacey. We've been waiting for this moment.
Yeah, indeed. You know, and I want to talk to you a little bit, Ricky, about some of the Boston Globe's reporting that his lawyers managed to get a secret hearing. Was it the show cause hearing that you were talking about?
Well, I've read the Boston Globe report, and what you have to remember is that show cause hearings are not the usual format for a felony, but they are not so unusual either. So the Globe has done a big Globe Spotlight series of reports over the last year about these show cause hearings because they don't like them, because they're done without a public record being there. It's not in the public courtroom.
And usually they're misdemeanors, not felonies,
They are usually misdemeanors. It occasionally happens with a felony. But for heaven's sake, I practiced law in Massachusetts for 20 years, and I'm going back a long time, and show cause hearings have happened forever. Now, yes, mostly with misdemeanors, but occasionally with felonies. The whole point of the Globe story this morning was that the Globe says this should be transparent. This is a person who is accused, who's a celebrity, the public has an interest. Well, they're going to get their interest satisfied now because of the presumption in Massachusetts in favor of cameras.
Can I just point out that Arjerica Duncan is sitting directly behind the actor Kevin Spacey, CBS News correspondent. So maybe she'll get a little question in. Let's listen.
Hang on just a minute. Folks, I made a statement earlier. It probably bears repeating. While you're all welcome to sit here and observe, no one should interfere or interrupt these proceedings. If you do, you risk being held in contempt, which carries a fine or even incarceration in some cases, or certainly being removed from the courtroom. So by all means, sit and observe, but do not interrupt these proceedings. And with respect to the press, we have the pool cameras up here, and other members of the press, you know, if you have your laptops or your telephones, you can communicate with them in the course of doing your job, but you cannot take pictures or record. Anyone violates these requirements, your phone can be taken from you, and as I said, likewise, you can be held in contempt. So I don't anticipate anybody will act contrary to my instruction, and I hope you won't. And I thank you in advance for your consideration in that regard. So, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
1888 CR 0598, Commonwealth versus Kevin S. Fowler. This is an arraignment, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right.
No record. Please.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fowler, this complaint charges that in the town of Nantucket on July 8th, 2016, did commit indecent assault and battery on person 14 or over.
Sir, if you're charged with another offense while this matter is open, you can be held for 90 days without bail. Mr. DA, request beyond the bail warning, any?
Beyond the bail warning, Your Honor, the Commonwealth is requesting that Mr. Spacey be ordered to stay away and have no contact with the named victim and his family.
All right, certainly the court will impose those conditions. Anything additional?
No, Judge.
Okay, all right. No requests in terms of movement or staying within the United States, anything?
As required by the court, Judge, and as required by the probation department, our only request specifically is the stay away.
Okay, all right. Well, those will be the conditions then. Sir, you'll meet with probation. You'll sign those conditions. You'll be required to stay away and have no contact, direct or indirect, with the alleged victim. All right. I know there was a motion filed by defense. I had occasion to look at it. Mr. DA, have you had occasion to look at it?
We've reviewed them, yes, Judge.
Okay. You want to be heard on the motion, or?
Briefly, Judge.
Sure.
Regarding the motions to preserve, we agree that anything that is currently in our custody and control, we have to preserve, we will preserve, and we will turn over in discovery.
Sure.
As it relates to the motion to preserve itself, we're suggesting at this point that the scope that is being requested by counsel is overly broad. It's asking for July 7th and July 8th of 2016, but all the way up to the present. We suggest that based on what's been filed up to the present is overly broad. The affidavits and the motions suggest that Mr. Little and his girlfriend or another individual were texting contemporaneously on the 7th into the 8th. And then it says by providing this other information, we'll likely see that something happened or that he talked about it further. But there's no basis for that information within the motion to preserve. We would suggest that it's a fishing expedition at this point, and that the motion should be narrowed at least to the 7th and 8th of July of 2016.
It's a fair point. Mr. Jackson or Ms. Bolero, I don't know who's going to respond, but feel free.
I'll be happy to respond. Alan Jackson on behalf of Mr. Spacey.
Sure.
Your Honor, I don't believe at this point that we need to talk about the scope. That's something in terms of a subpoena. In other words, what I subpoena or what I serve on those individuals might require a discussion or some litigation about the scope. All I'm asking at this point is that we preserve it. In other words, This is data that we believe is not only potentially exculpatory, but likely exculpatory for Mr. Spacey. I simply don't want to see any of that data deleted, destroyed, even inadvertently, or in other words, in any other way manipulated. I don't think it's a burden at all on the Commonwealth, nor on the two individuals named in the motion, MD and the complaining witness, to simply say, I'm ordering you not to destroy anything, so that Mr. Jackson, Ms. Bolero, the Commonwealth can litigate in front of the court at some point whether or not there is exculpatory information that leads all the way up to today. In other words, all I'm asking for is just to put a bubble around that data so it doesn't get destroyed. I'm not saying I get it yet. I just don't want it destroyed yet.
Further response?
We can only control, Judge, at this point, what's in the care, custody, and control of the
I understand.
Commonwealth.
Right.
As far as information that would be contained within the specific service providers of these individual cell phone carriers, well, that's different. We have no control over that, Judge. So we would suggest that as far as the preservation goes, whether it be to the individuals directly or to the providers, that it be limited at this point to the 7th and the 8th until more information can be provided as to why it might likely be exculpatory versus a fishing expedition.
Right. I haven't seen any of the police reports, so I don't know what, except for your affidavit, I don't know what information you base this request upon. I do think that the 7th and 8th certainly it would be appropriate to time span to preserve the evidence, but I understand that even if the motion is allowed, it can be modified down the road and can be tightened up. And so I'm inclined to allow the motion. I don't know that I'm going to do it all the way up until, from the 7th and 8th up. I mean, I may give you maybe 6 months worth of preservation, but I don't know that I'm going to require that everything be preserved. Go ahead.
But certainly at this point, that would be satisfactory. 6 months worth of preservation, I think, is better than nothing, and I'm certainly willing to accommodate the Commonwealth and the court's guidance on that.
So from was it July 7th?
July 7 and 8 of 2016.
Right. Okay.
And 6 months thereafter.
All right, and 6 months thereafter, the motion will be allowed. At least there'll be a requirement that the cell phones and I think the cloud-based and then some passwords, et cetera, that all be preserved. As I say, that's subject to further modification one way or the other, depending upon what is discovered during the course of this matter. So,
thank you.
All right, we have a further date, gents and ladies that work.
We haven't discussed one yet.
Confer with counsel.
Go ahead.
I think we can come up with a date in just a quick
Go ahead.
second.
Sure. Sir, you can be seated. You don't need to continue to stand. Thank you. Thanks. Actually, you got it. Thanks, boss.
Your Honor, may I consult my cell phone real quick?
Sure.
It's got my calendar on it. I apologize.
Your Honor, Mr. Jackson is admitted pro hac vice. I am local counsel on the case. Are you going to require my appearance from someone from my office at all proceedings?
Are you in already? I know you came in so that he could enter the pro hac vice, but is
Yes, I do have a notice of appearance on file, and Mr. Jackson was filing one today as well.
So your appearance is already in?
My appearance is in.
Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Counsel. It looks like the 18th would be the normal 6-week date, but that's President's Day. I think the court's closed.
Yeah.
The following Monday, the 25th, I'm on trial. I'm out of notice. You're out of town. Can we do it the 4th of March?
That's fine.
That's okay.
Yes.
Your Honor, if it pleases the court, counsel and I have discussed informally a date of the 4th of March, which is a Monday. I understand that's most convenient for the court.
Yeah, that's right. Jury week is in February, so March 4th would probably work. Yeah.
And counsel and I also discussed off the record, and I would ask for the court's guidance on this. He has no objection, the Commonwealth has no objection to Mr. Spacey not making that appearance. I can make that appearance on his behalf, along with Ms. Valero, if need be, without him having to be there on that date.
No, and that's fine. His appearance can be waived. However, he should be, the rule requires that he be available, so he should at least be on the other end of the phone if there's some reason that he needs to be contacted.
Absolutely.
But his appearance can be waived.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
And
Thank
can
you.
we schedule that, Your Honor, for 11 a.m. again?
Sure. All set? Anything additional, folks?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
No? All right. Thank you all for your help. I'm going to step off, and then the camera people can break down their equipment, and those connected with the case can depart. Thank you very much.
Okay, this case has been continued to March 4th, 2019 for pretrial hearing at 11 a.m. The defendant's appearance has been waived. Sir, you should report to the probation department before you leave the building in order to sign the conditions of stay away and no contact with the victim and the victim's family. Thank you.
Court stands in recess. So step aside, please.
So it's the short hearing that we expected, Ricky Kleeman, with Kevin Spacey. What did we see unfold there?
Well, we actually saw less than I expected entirely. I mean, because ultimately, we really didn't have the formal reading of the charges. How do you plead guilty or not guilty? None of that happened. And we know that they're coming back, I think what I heard was March 4th for a preliminary hearing, and he's interviewing with probation. So this was even less rigorous than I expected it to be. There was more debate about the date of the preliminary hearing between the lawyers, and then the question of preserving records, which I thought was an interesting legal issue, and I might have asked for it differently had I been his
What would
lawyer.
you have asked for?
I think if I want to have the records preserved, particularly telephonic, texting, electronic records, who I assume are of the accuser and of his then girlfriend at the time, whom he allegedly texted contemporaneously with this allegation of sexual assault, that I would have asked for the records to be preserved all the way through the time of the accuser's mother going to the police and starting an investigation in November of 2017. So I would have asked for much longer than 6 months.
So we heard the judge say March 4th.
Yes.
So what's going on March 4th?
Good question. The traditional route to go in a felony case is one of two ways in Massachusetts. Either you have a preliminary hearing, which is before a judge, where perhaps the oldest preliminary hearing that our viewers may be familiar with would be the O.J. Simpson preliminary hearing, which went on for quite some time, where the judge then makes a decision whether or not there is probable cause. But the much more logical way to proceed is for the Commonwealth, that is the prosecution, to skip the preliminary hearing and in the meantime go to a grand jury and file an indictment, which would take us to a higher court. And the reason for that is you really don't want your accuser to be subject to cross-examination at a preliminary hearing. First of all, it's traumatizing to the accuser. Second of all, it can trap the accuser in misstatements, and no prosecutor wants to put his accuser either through it or to take the chance that it also hurts the prosecution's case. So my prediction is that instead of March 4th, they'll go to the grand jury and go to return an indictment against Mr. Spacey.
So I guess we're waiting for Kevin Spacey to come through those doors. You're looking at a live picture right now. I'm just curious, Ricky, can you just, for our audience who may be just joining us now as we've witnessed Kevin Spacey here at this preliminary hearing, what the case is all about and how strong you think the prosecution's case is?
You have strengths for both the prosecution and the defense by virtue of the circumstances that are in the police reports. According to the prosecution, that this young man at the age of 18 met Kevin Spacey late one night at the Club Car, very popular place in Nantucket, I can say from experience, that met him at the Club Car. I mean, they ran into each other at the Club Car. He told Kevin Spacey he was 23, which puts him above the legal age to drink of 21, and that they talked together and drank together at the bar. It is said that Kevin Spacey said, according to the allegations, let's get drunk, and plied him with a number of drinks over a 70-minute period. The accuser says that during that time, at some point, Kevin Spacey has his hand within the accuser's pants and is fondling him for a period as long as 3 minutes. Oddly enough, because I think this cuts both ways, the accuser is texting his girlfriend at some point during this, and there is video. We don't know exactly how much. Is it a screenshot? Is it actually a video? Is it part of a Snapchat that disappeared? Is it something else? But that originally, according to the allegation, it sounded like the girlfriend actually was able to see some fondling. However, at the show cause hearing before the clerk, what we find is that Alan Jackson, the defense lawyer, says to the detective or to the police officer, the only touching is of a shirt that we see, not of any inappropriate conduct. So we'll have to find out what the truth of that is. Good fact, bad fact about texting the girlfriend, I don't have an answer for you. I think that it can cut either way. The good fact for the prosecution is the young man Kevin Spacey goes to the bathroom, he leaves, and he goes to his sister and he says immediately that he has been sexually assaulted, that is touched inappropriately by Kevin Spacey. That's a very good fact from the sister. On the other side of that, he also says, because the police officer admits it, that the accuser also says he never told Kevin Spacey to stop. He never said no. He didn't manifest that there was a lack of consent. So how is Kevin Spacey to know that
he's underage?
That not only underage, but that the underage for drinking.
Yeah.
But not only that, but also how is Kevin Spacey to know that this is not a consensual encounter?
Right.
I mean, there's no action of that. Now, there's also a very...
And the fact that he's 18, is that an issue at all? I mean, or is 18 would have been an
He's
age
an adult.
Yeah,
he's an adult. But the statute in Massachusetts talks about indecent assault and battery, which this would be if true, on someone over the age of 14, which then makes it a 5-year maximum penalty. If it had been under the age of 14, the penalty would be greater.
So over 14, he's 18, it's assault and battery.
It's indecent assault and battery. In other places, it would be called sexual assault, or it might be called something else. But indecent assault and battery is the language of Massachusetts. So there's another, I think, odd fact about all of this. Good news for the prosecution that they have this fresh complaint witness, the sister. At the same time, good news for the prosecution that the young man drank a great deal, because one of the things that we learned, again in Bill Cosby's case, is if you are so inebriated that you are unable to consent.
Here we go. We're going to see Kevin Spacey once again leaving the courthouse. Sorry to cut you off, Ricky. Our Jerika Duncan is there in that media scrum. I'm sure, like everybody else, she's going to try to get a question in. Let's see if we can hear something. This is looks like the police clearing the reporters out of the pathway that Mr. Spacey is set to take. So we can expect that he will appear in just a few moments. we can expect to hear a lot of questions being shouted out. Our Tarika's there, including her photojournalist Jim Zurich. So let's see if we can hear something. Not just yet. So yeah.
While we're waiting, sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to say about this whole issue of consent or lack of consent.
Yeah.
So if you get somebody so drunk that they are unable to consent, that's a lack of consent. However, this young man was obviously at the bar and able to leave of his own free will and go over to his sister's. Now, that becomes an issue in favor of the defense. We also have my favorite little wrinkle in this case, and I don't mean to make light of it. According to the accuser, when Kevin Spacey went to the bathroom, and the accuser was alone at the bar, and I mean alone, he's still in the midst of a lot of people, but he's without Spacey.
Here he comes.
Oh, okay.
I think so. Yeah, that's his lawyer. Here he comes.
Mr. Spacey?
Let's listen.
Mr. Cameron? Any comments? Everyone stay back.
Kevin, do you think he gave consent?
What really happened?
All right, so clearly not taking any questions, but you know, it's interesting. When he first sat down in that courtroom, Ricky, and you and I were watching, he was sitting there with his attorney, and the attorney mentioned something to him, and Mr. Spacey smiled, and I kind of had a feeling that that was going to be a moment, because now all of a sudden on my news feeds popping up, the headline, Kevin Spacey all smiles as he sits in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, I think, a refrain that you're going to hear. And that's why I was sort of asking you about the strength of the prosecution's case, because the narrative might be, look, it's not that strong, and that's why he feels comfortable, relaxed, sitting in the courtroom.
Well, yeah, let me say this. From having been on both sides as a prosecutor and a defense lawyer, the defendant is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. If he frowns and looks down, well, then
he did it, right?
Right, he did. If he smiles, then is he confident or is he just nervous? There is no win for the defendant on demeanor. And the Twitter feed will go wild, and everyone will be talking about this smile. And the reality is that it has no reality.
Right.
It has absolutely no reality.
And I'm glad you're addressing that, because I worry that sometimes that becomes the narrative in social media.
I think, but in his particular case, it's sort of compounded by that video that he released
that
earlier,
crazy video.
where he was playing Frank Underwood, the character that he played in House of Cards, who was not a nice guy.
No.
In the dialogue, there was, one could interpret as a lot of double entendre. It could be Frank Underwood talking about returning to the White House, because if you're unfamiliar, he was the president, or it could be, Kevin Spacey talking about the allegations against him. I don't think that helps. But what I want to ask you, Ricky, is that just a bunch of sort of garbage in the air, like, whether or not he smiled for 3 seconds, or could that later on have an impact on his case?
I think that could have an impact on his case, because as we know, when you record a video, it is forever. And so there is the opportunity, which I do not think will ever happen, if Kevin Spacey were to testify, which I do not think he can. And the reason I say that is because it opens up the question for him of other possible allegations against him, whether or not they're charged. But it's fodder for cross-examination. I'm sure the prosecutor is going to try to do something with that video to make it look like some kind of an admission and put it in their own case.
Wouldn't they be derelict if they didn't introduce it at least to ask him what he was talking about?
Well, that's if he testifies. But, if he doesn't testify, the question is there something in there that the prosecution can say is some kind of admission of guilt, and the defense will say it's ambiguous, that you can't introduce this, and there'll be definitely a fight about that at the time of trial.
I want to ask you another question about one of the components of this case. You talked about the amount of drinking that they both did.
Yes.
Is it required to prove some sort of intent? It's one thing if you and I decide to go to a bar and we're both drinking a lot, versus you're trying to get me drunk.
I'm buying you a lot of drinks?
Yeah.
I suppose that definitely plays into it. There's no question. I mean, certainly that's going to be the prosecution's theory, that in 70 minutes he got the kid blind drunk, and the whole purpose of that was in order to sexually assault him. Right. And that's going to be part of the prosecution's theory of the case. And the defense parry to that, in the thrust and parry, is that, well, no, they were both drinking. Everyone was drinking. And they were, they're standing at the bar. It's not like this young man was falling down drunk.
Right. So is there a defense if part of Kevin Spacey's argument is we were both drunk. We were both silly. We were both doing things that are out of character.
Well, or maybe not out of character. We were both having a good time.
Right.
It's another night at the club car.
Right.
This is a young man who worked there. The bartenders, are now all deaf, dumb, and blind, right? None of them remember any of this. And of course, the bartenders would have known he worked there as a busboy. He was off duty at the time. And they would have known that he was 18 years old. Mm-hmm. So they cannot serve him at that point. So there's also that question.
Yeah.
The other question, which I find the most intriguing of this entire case, even more than the craziness of texting the girlfriend simultaneously with an alleged sexual assault, which I find bizarre beyond words, is the idea that a woman, we don't know if she's young or old, a woman came up to the accuser when Kevin Spacey went to the bathroom and said, "Get out of here," and recognized that this young man was in trouble. Well, we don't know who that woman is, and neither does anybody else.
Wow.
So that's, and now...
So is that according to the victim in this case?
It's according to the investigation. From what I've read and what I've heard from the audio tape. So what you wind up with, if someone now 2.5 years later says, "Oh, I'm that woman," well, how much credence do you put in that when you look at the world of people who want to be in the limelight? I was the woman who was the savior. Well, where's she been for 2.5 years? If you're someone who's concerned because you've witnessed a sexual assault and you get the kid out of there, don't you say something to the bartender or something to the owner? So I think the mystery woman rescuer is a fact in favor of the defense.
So we expect in just a few moments we're going to get Arjerica Duncan, who, as we pointed out earlier, was sitting directly behind Kevin Spacey when he was in the courtroom there. We just saw Mr. Spacey leaving the courtroom, and we saw all the reporters there sort of in a scrum trying to get questions thrown at him. Arjun Zurich, who's the photojournalist there for CBS News, was able to get that shot of that departure of Kevin Spacey. Arjerica is getting into position right now. She's been sort of covering this case sort of from the beginning, which is why we decided to send her there. So we're going to chat with her about some of the details, Ricky, that you've been talking about. But it does seem that, to the point that you were making about some of the details of this case, that there are a lot of unanswered questions about exactly what happened, and I'm very confused about how you could be getting sexually assaulted but texting somebody while that assault is happening.
That's going to be a question being asked. And you know what, I'm trying to remember the timeline, because I recall the victim's mother coming forward to the media.
She comes forward in the fall of 2017.
It was the mom who came forward, right?
The mom comes forward.
Did she go to authorities first, or did she go to the media first?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because I recall the stories being in the paper, but not knowing exactly where they came from.
My guess is, and I can look through my file, is that it's fairly contemporaneous, because my recollection of her coming forward is by that time there is a lawyer for the accuser. And that lawyer, by the way, another very interesting fact, is Mitchell Garabedian. Mitchell Garabedian was the primary lawyer for the pre-sexual assault cases in Massachusetts, and he is portrayed in the film Spotlight.
Wow.
So they have gone really big to get Mitchell Garabedian, who really is someone who not only is a very good lawyer, you have good lawyers all around here, but someone who will protect the interests of someone he believes was sexually assaulted, and looks at this young man as vulnerable at the age of 18 at the time. So the chances of this case ultimately not going to trial, that is coming down to a plea of guilty, and you could come down to a plea of guilty of simple assault and battery. Nothing to do with sex. He wouldn't be a sexual offender. You could, in certain cases, get to a plea of guilty. That's never going to happen here. This is all or nothing at all.
So we're looks like he's headed to Well, I'm not clear. I mean, I go to Nantucket every summer. I'm just trying to see if that's the airport.
I would say the airport or the ferry.
Yeah,
There's
right,
only
exactly.
2 ways
He
out.
had been staying in an apartment in Boston, I think, according to
So he's
the
just gonna
paparazzi
get-
who've been stalking him.
Yeah.
So he may be going back there.
Well, the difficulty you've got, and you know from being on Nantucket, and for those of us who have spent time there, first of all, even think about the media scrum. You can only get there by ferry or plane.
I'm just trying to
island.
figure out where everybody stayed because there's not that much. You know what I mean?
this time
at this
of
time
year?
of the year. Well, yeah, and so it looks like he's on his way to a private plane, I think, because I just saw a wing of an airplane.
Well, that
And
would make sense.
He's just going to get, so it's basically in and out. It's, it's not even an hour flight from New York City. So from Boston, if that's where he is, it should be quick. But he's got to come back on March 4th. And if our audience is just joining us as we wait to talk to Jerika, so that preliminary hearing on March 4th, what can we expect?
Well,
he has to come back for that, right?
If there is a preliminary
right.
hearing, which I suspect there won't,
won't be,
because
you were
I
saying.
think that they're going to go to a grand jury instead in order to save the accuser the trauma and the difficulty, because I mean, that's every defense lawyer's dream. I get another chance to cross-examine the accuser. So I don't think there is going to be a hearing on March 4th. But if there is, that's a full-blown hearing. I mean, that's, that's like a mini trial.
Is this him?
And you
coming
said
out?
that you didn't think he would be testifying. If you were advising him, you would tell him not to.
Oh,
take
Kevin
the stand?
Spacey?
Yeah.
He can't testify
No.
because we're back to, and I'm going to keep doing this as long as we cover this trial and this case. I'm going to keep bringing up Bill Cosby's case because the similarities in terms of a celebrity who has been otherwise accused of sexual assault where he has not been charged, and here is charged. So one of the big motions at this case should it be going to a trial court, which Nantucket is not. Nantucket's a little court. You have to go to the big court, the higher court being the superior court. That the prosecution is going to want to introduce testimony of other accusers. The defense will say the accusations are not similar enough to form a pattern. So we're going to have that debate. And if you wind up with other accusers, you're back in Bill Cosby's situation. Trial 1, 1 other accuser, hung jury. Trial 2, 5 other accusers, guilty.
Right.
So if you wind up with other accusers in this courthouse at a trial, Kevin Spacey is in some serious trouble because this case in and of itself may not be strong enough to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So the way to bolster it is that there's no such thing as coincidence. That really what we want to show, if we're the prosecution, is a common scheme or plan or a pattern.
Yeah, and I do believe other accusers have come forward. We know of at least, one, but I believe several others have come forward about not just sexual behavior, but just general sort of bad behavior.
Right, and we know that there are investigations in London, there's an investigation in Los Angeles. So there's always these other potential accusers lurking in the wind, and it takes a long time for a case to get to trial, which allows the prosecution to be able to develop other accusers into witnesses. And I say that properly, ethically, that, you got to go look for them.
Right,
and
they have
talk
to be
them.
legitimate.
Well, and that it has to be similar enough.
Right.
I mean, is there another situation where Kevin Spacey allegedly went into a bar and started to fondle or touch inappropriately someone in a bar by getting them drunk?
That's specific?
That, it seems to me, you can't take a case of Kevin Spacey allegedly throwing someone on a bed in a totally unrelated situation. They're totally different.
So this is playback, we should just point out to our audience. This is just from moments ago when Mr. Spacey first arrived into that courthouse in Nantucket, the island of Nantucket, Massachusetts. He's sitting there with his attorney, waiting to be standing before the judge, or at least seated before the judge. And so, yeah, this was very quick. This is video of him leaving the courthouse. This lasted, as far as he and the judge interacting, for less than 5 minutes. I think the judge just basically told him that he could sit down and not have to stand. And he's already there, exactly where I was going to go, which is this shot of the plane, which I think missed the shot of Mr. Spacey climbing into that private aircraft, but it is soon departing from parts unknown. So real quick, what were we talking about earlier, that he was hoping that he didn't have to appear before this judge, but then he ultimately was compelled to.
Right, he was compelled to because it was the first proceeding once he had been charged. At the same time, this is exactly what his lawyers wanted to avoid, because now it will be, or the video will be replayed, the smile will be replayed, the Twitter feed will be off the, just over the edge on it. And people feel very strongly. I was looking at the Twitter feed yesterday, and they feel...
Sorry, Ricky, just
Sure.
because I'm told we have Jerika Duncan standing by. And Jerika, you are in Nantucket. You have been there for the last day or so. You were seated directly behind Kevin Spacey when he came into that courtroom, and we saw you and your photojournalist Jim Zurich trying to get a shot of him arriving and departing. Just tell us a little bit about what you witnessed. I mean, we saw the cameras, but you were standing so close to Mr. Spacey. What was his demeanor like? What could you see?
Well, first, let's just say we didn't know where Kevin Spacey and his attorneys would be seated. So for him to literally sit right directly in front of me, we got a perfect shot of his demeanor, and anything that he might say we could overhear. I did notice the attorney made some joke. I'm not sure exactly what he said. They both spoke very low, and Mr. Spacey chuckled at him. You could see him sort of take in the crowd. He looked to his left, sort of smiled. He didn't say anything in court. It's our understanding, though, that from a legal standpoint, he did plead not guilty. We're going to work on getting that paperwork, but it was very quick. I'm sure you guys have already talked about this, but it started literally at like 10:57, and it was pretty much over within 5 to 6 minutes. Again, I think there's just so much interest in something like this because of the star that Kevin Spacey is. This town hall didn't open until 8 o'clock this morning, but there was literally a line of people waiting to get in to that courtroom as early as 6 o'clock this morning. It felt like 8 degrees at that time. It feels like 14 right now. It's about 27 degrees in Nantucket. So there is definite interest whenever you're dealing with someone of that magnitude. People are familiar with his work. Of course, House of Cards was very popular. And then you have that bizarre video that he posted shortly after being charged with that felony indecent assault and battery charge. So we were hoping maybe to get some sort of reaction, if not even just hear from his attorney, but that did not happen. They were in and out. I'm sure, again, I heard the tail end of what Ricky was saying, which is the defense sort of got what they wanted in terms of getting more data that could be preserved. Perhaps they're going to try and say that there were things that were said that maybe tell a different story than what we've heard. I actually interviewed Heather Unruh. She is the woman who said that her son was sexually assaulted by Kevin Spacey. She was heartbroken. And when you really go back, she sort of hinted to the fact that she believed Kevin Spacey assaulted her son on Twitter, and it didn't really pick up at the time. And then she came out publicly, and then of course her son went to the police, and here we are a little over a year from that news conference where Heather Unruh said Kevin Spacey sexually assaulted my son, and sure enough, he's in court. But again, a lot of people just wanted to be here. I overheard conversations of students, of people who live in this area, who just wanted to see him up close and personal. And it is interesting, I guess, to even be that close to him during the proceeding. But his demeanor, he didn't really show a lot of emotion. And again, it just felt like he sort of took in the crowd. He didn't say anything. He didn't really smile or wave at anyone. And having covered these sort of hearings, whether it be Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby, sometimes you get a little bit more reaction. They're a little bit more animated, but he really didn't have much to say today. And again, he's not expected to be at the next hearing. It's a preliminary hearing, which will happen in March.
All right, Jerika, thank you very much. I'm glad you brought up, the other people in the courthouse, because I was wondering who he was looking at, because there was sort of a moment where he almost looked like he had a twinkle in his eyes. He sort of scanned, and I wasn't sure if perhaps there had been family members there or somebody else. It sounds like maybe just fans or the curious, the morbidly curious, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Jerika,
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you. Jerika, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm sure you'll be having a lot more to file for CBS News on the CBS Evening News tonight. We appreciate your time with us. Thank you. Ricky,
Absolutely.
so this is, as Jerika points out, you pointed out earlier, he's not expected to appear in that March 4th hearing. And so we'll just have to see where this goes. But Jerika did remind us of how this first came to light.
Yes, because
you
I was
asked.
trying to sort of figure out, you know, what came first, because it certainly wasn't the accuser who was the most vocal initially.
mom.
It was his mother,
On Twitter.
right? Yeah, on Twitter, as Jerika told us. So, which maybe it doesn't really count for anything. I don't know if it's something that may come up.
I'm sure it will come up because his mother has the potential to be a witness if there is a trial in this case. And the real, it always goes back to what's the truth beneath the story. And that, is this a young man who was really sexually assaulted and therefore traumatized? It's the prosecution's theory, and his mother is there to help him through this trauma, and as any mother would be, that she's horrified by what happened to her son. Or was this a young man who either consented or understood that even if he didn't really consent, he acted like he consented, and therefore he was ashamed, and that he then has to be the role of the victim because he can't say that he participated. And that's the defense side of this case.
Really
Ricky,
interesting.
yeah, always so great to have you, because a lot of times for these, especially in the early stages of investigations and hearings, as Jerika pointed out, it wasn't. Jerika said, because she's not a lawyer, she's like, I think that he pleaded guilty, but we didn't really hear from him.
We did it on paper.
Right?
He did
right.
it on
so
paper.
like
right.
those are the things that we need clarification on, and we're always so good to have you here to help it break it down for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let's take a quick break. We've been talking about Kevin Spacey for the last half hour, but there's so much else that is happening all over the world, including the president threatening to declare a national emergency if he doesn't get money for the wall. I just saw information popping up about R. Kelly and his response to that docuseries that's come out that we did for CBS this morning. So there's a lot out there that we're going to get to in the next couple of moments. Stick around. We're going to come right back after this break. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer addressed the ongoing government shutdown earlier at an event for the Association for a Better New York.
He recounted calls his office has received from constituents who are living without paychecks while the government remains partially closed.
People's lives are being hurt. These are good people, hardworking people. They're the kind of people, you know, government workers. They could have 100 fever one Monday morning. They get up and go to work because they know their job's important. And they're not getting paid, and they're being hurt. That's real human collateral damage to the President Trump's temper tantrum.
Well, the president is demanding more than $5 billion for a border wall, but Democrats have offered far less for other measures to increase security along the southern border.
Senator Elizabeth Warren went to Iowa over the weekend.
She says that she's not officially running for president yet, but her message to voters was pretty clear. I'm in this fight.
I have spent my entire career on one central question: what's happening to working families? Why is America's middle class getting hollowed out? And it's because Washington works great for the rich and the powerful. It's just not working for anyone else. That's why I'm in this fight, and that's what I'm going to talk about every single day.
All right, CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns traveled to Iowa to cover Warren's visit, but she's back here in New York with us, which is great.
Yes, much colder here, actually, than it was in Iowa.
It's freezing here today. We've been talking about that, and in the studio, too. Get a little heat. Anyway, so, Caitlin, okay, so she said her hat isn't officially thrown into the ring, but, you know, most people sort of pass through Iowa to see what sort of reception they're getting. What does it seem like her presence in the 2020 election is sort of shaping up to be?
Well, the reason we're covering Warren now is that she's the first major kind of top-tier candidate or potential candidate to make official moves towards 2020. So she announced that exploratory committee last week. This was her first visit to Iowa in this kind of capacity. So these stops, she made 5 of them around the state. I covered several of them. She was hosting kind of question and answer sessions. These were pretty big events, you know, 700 people at one that I covered, which is pretty big considering we're still a year away from those Iowa caucuses. And she was trying to do 2 things. First, to kind of get out there and kind of carve out a niche for herself in the field, pitching herself as kind of the ultimate fighter for the middle class, as she called it, and kind of this economic populist message that she's been putting forward, which was apparent in that clip you played. But the other part of this was really to introduce herself, her kind of personal history to voters, because a lot of people know who Elizabeth Warren is. She's been kind of a prominent figure on the national stage for quite some time, but people don't really know her backstory. You know, she grew up in Oklahoma. She talks a lot about how her father was a janitor and her mother had to take a minimum wage job at Sears to kind of help the family move forward, and those kinds of things she really wanted to let voters know this is who she is. So we'll see what the reception is like.
Because recently, at least, you know, if the president has been telling the public who she is, he's sort of been controlling her story. So
and that, to Anne-Marie's point, is, I think, something that is striking, because you're already starting to see a message crafted around her by the opposition, by people who, you know, would like to see her run because they think that President Trump, because of the comments that he's made, would probably be much more aggressive towards her. I just don't feel as if that's what the voters are saying, the people who matter, the people who are going to... You talk to some of those folks. What are they telling you?
I talked to a lot of different voters at these various stops, and I will say, you know, a lot of these folks are really in the beginning stages here, right? Trying to check out these candidates as they come through their hometowns and see what they're all about. But I will say 2 things. First, Warren does have a pretty strong following. You know, I talked to younger voters who have followed her career, older voters who were very interested in her message, kind of reminded them of Democratic Party values that they grew up with, and others who were just really interested in seeing what's out there. But the overarching theme, I will say, among most voters that I talked to was they want a candidate who can defeat Donald Trump. A lot of them mentioned the way in which they might not have been active in 2016 or other elections. They're starting to really get active now, and we saw that obviously in the midterms. So what that candidate looks like obviously remains to be seen, and that's what we're going to be covering over the next 2 years as voters try to figure that out. But certainly they want someone who can defeat